Hey there. I don't normally, endorse. Otherwise, I'd end up being like Madison Avenue, running ads all the time if I was to endorse and give shout outs to everybody that represents learning, right? The speed of learning, going from inverters to accelerators. And so there's a channel I recently noticed because I'm supposed to notice it. And his name is Stefan, Stefan Burns. And he's a young man that what was really beautiful about this, when you understand or learn how the morphogenetic field structure works with planetary consciousness, right? The planetary software terrain, running radio sets, communicating with each other, right, in the language of DNA, and how the morphogenetic field structure of communication works between the planetary consciousness field, which is everything that is conscious and aware of itself, communicating with everyone that is here, right, across the entire spectrum. And so, Stefan, when I measure this, if you will, with other folks that I'm familiar with, that I grew up with, like Terrence McKenna, Ralph Abramson, and Rupert Sheldrake, and of course, there's a gazillion others. Victor Schauberger, his book "Living Energies." There's a gazillion folks I could name, but primarily Rupert Sheldrake because he spent so much of his focus on how the planet how we communicate with each other. The planetary conscious field communicates with each other, and so here it is. I'm thinking, because of a lot that I've read and listened to many presentations that Rupert has provided over many years. And you say, okay, when you think of time and density and the speed at which that information is being communicated between him and us and everyone else, which are like the lines of communication, the ley lines of communication, the ley lines of consciousness communication. Okay, so you have all this information that is being learned and gathered and experienced as self-organizing information, right? Held within their own structure, so to speak, right? Their own soul matrix, right? Connected with other souls on the planet and the matrix itself that we're all, I call it being plugged in, right? Just like plugging jacks into the back of a DVD recorder, video recorder, stereo receiver and transmitter. So this young man did in roughly, I didn't get the minutes on it, but it's not very long. It might be 20 minutes, maybe 20 odd minutes. That's a short course. That's a short lesson, right? He took essentially all of the stuff that Rupert, over many, many, many years in all of his publications, this young man condensed it down. So you understand what a condenser is and condensing it down. In other words, it's much like the fog index that I've covered before. You know how energy efficiency of self-organized information, which means you don't need, if I took Rupert Sheldrake, for example, and said, okay, how many publications and journals does he have out there in written form, and how long did it take him to organize all that information? How long would it take us to go through all that information in order to be able to process it and map it, right? Even though it's already in the morphogenetic field structure, which means we have access to that data. Everything that Rupert Sheldrake, we actually have access to the morphogenetic field structure. Everything that Rupert was learning while he was learning it, we got access to that. And he showed that. So here you have a gentleman, okay, who's now essentially expressing where Rupert left off. Okay, as an example. Okay, which means this man in 20 minutes did not need to go through all the time and energy and density, okay, that's now information held within the planetary memory banks, and where Rupert leaves off and where others leave off, and the speed at which they're self-organizing the spiritual information, right, has everything to do with the expansion of consciousness and the way that compression and expansion works. How much information can you compress, right, into a single radio antenna, that you have access to that information, and the speed at which you're able to organize it and compress it and then experience it in a shorter period of time, which is the acceleration of the electrons because the data is flowing through the electromagnetic radiation waveform harmonics. But the data, when we think, right, is the electrons are the carriers. The speed of the information. The geometrical and mathematical information codes in the information codes are represented by the units of consciousness that are communicating with everyone. So this was a beautiful video to really take and see, if you spend any time with Rupert Sheldrake, how the morphogenic field structure works of communication. This is a beautiful video to see. It's like coming full circle. You know, so the beauty in that is it would mean that if you were going to put your children in a classroom and they wanted to learn about the morphogenic field structure, okay, then you would probably hook your children up with this young man, because then it takes, instead of having to spend all the time that we did to learn everything that Rupert learned, it's now in the field of information. It's in the information field. So everybody's got access to that. As a matter of fact, they don't even really need to go to a class with this guy. You have access to everything that he's already communicating on this video. That's what happens when you're grounded to mama and the planetary memory banks. That information, everything this young man is talking about, the morphogenic field structure and fusion and energy water and molecules and how this all comes together to communicate with each other, and morphic resonant field, right, of communication, the antennas that are communicating with each other. And this young man did it in a very short period of time. And I thought, very good. So you can see how the information is organized very efficiently. So now we're into information services efficiency, right? How fast we're organizing the information in which to learn from that, how all these life-giving properties and processes all relate to who it is that we are and why we're here, if you will, in a classroom. Right? So when I think about like a master's class, this is like cutting right to the chase, the speed at which we're learning, particularly in a Nomi planet, right? A noble planet. Learning spiritual integrity. And particularly when I was a child growing up, what has the first metric that I remember experiencing in my own state of consciousness was, what has the greatest value? Well, we already know love does. So if you're experiencing love as the energy that you're using to learn with, I would suggest you're going to learn at a pretty high rate of speed, right? And so you're learning through love, so you're learning through the first teacher, right? So you're connected with every living state of consciousness that is experiencing itself in spirit form, the form and flow of the energy, right? No broken arrows, no broken circuits. That means we're feeling whole. We're experiencing being one. And that's what it means to experience no broken circuits, right? No break in the atoms, no break in the atmospherics, the ether. We're all getting the information now at a higher rate of speed. Yeah. And it's beautiful to see how the videos get popped up and shown to me, the different, if you will, speeds at which people are now sharing information by what they've learned in the information field, what they're sharing with us. So this is a great sign of exactly what we know about how servers operate. Operating system, right? Servers, the information is now flowing through the circuits at a higher rate of speed by what people are self-organizing and sharing with others. Right? So the classroom is speeding up. Yeah, that's good stuff. Have a great day.